Okay, thank you very much for the invite to Mixer to come present the organisation that I'm the director of, Chapter in Cardiff. Just to give you the context, I'm working here on secondment with British Council to look at opportunities for greater collaboration between the UK and the Balkan region, and to bring some of my, if you like, practical experience of the last 20-odd years in running venues and creative industries and doing productions and shows and all that sort of thing, to see if there's ways of British Council perhaps doing things slightly differently. And you know, there are lots of challenges out there for all of us in the sector, lots of challenges for British Council, lots of challenges for the creative industries, but those are also, I think, are opportunities. So what I'd like to do is just present to you the organisation that I run in Cardiff, and you know, there may be relevance to what I present to you that's relevant here to Serbia and the Balkan region. I hope there is. If there isn't, no problem. But if you'd like to have a conversation following this about what we do, I'm more than happy to take that conversation further. So I'll present this. I'm also here to learn about the region, and I have to say, for the short time I've been here, I've found it remarkable how much energy there is, how much inventiveness, how much resourcefulness there is in the creative and performing sector in Serbia and the Balkan region. And I will be taking some of that enthusiasm and experience back to me in Cardiff. I'm here to learn as much about things and to do things differently back in Cardiff as hopefully I can tell you some of the things that we're doing. Okay, so just to give you a quick geography lesson, I'm from Cardiff. So forget London, forget sparkly, lovely, shiny, wealthy London. Cardiff, down in the corner, Wales. Okay? That's the quick geography lesson. Right, a few of the famous people of Wales. That's our flag, top left-hand corner. Tom Jones, Shakin' Stevens, you might know him. Dylan Thomas, Anthony Hopkins, and the most expensive footballer in the world, Gareth Bale, who's from Cardiff. And we are chasing for money at the moment. Okay, philanthropy, I'll talk about that a little bit as well. So those are some of the people of Wales. You probably know Scotland, you probably know Ireland. We're the smaller Celtic nation. Okay, so that's Wales. So what is Wales? Wales is a country of 3 million people. So we're still part of the United Kingdom, but devolved government since 1999, similar to Scotland and Northern Ireland. So since 1999, we've had a National Assembly that has 60 elected members and responsibility for certain areas of public administration. So in other words, Wales is allowed to do its own thing in education, health, transport policy, and most importantly, culture. Foreign policy, taxation, defence, all that stuff is still in Westminster, in central London. But importantly, culture, we are allowed to have our own voice and create our own policies. And that's very important. As a country, we're bilingual. 600,000 people, 20% of the population, speak Welsh. And very interestingly, it's not a dying language. It's a language that is growing amongst young people because they recognise that language is a key part of the Welsh culture, and they wish to keep the culture of Wales very much alive. So it gives us a very distinct and unique voice, I think, in Wales, and certainly in the UK, and also within Europe. But Wales is also a country with some enormous, deep-rooted economic problems. Post the Thatcherism era, I'm sure you've all heard of Thatcher. Well, back in the 1980s, she changed the landscape of Wales enormously. Okay, back in 1980, over 100,000 people were employed in mining, and over 50,000 people were employed in steel. That figure is now less than 8,000 in mining and less than 5,000 in steel. Okay, so enormous industrial change happened within Wales. And that industrial decline is very similar to lots of places in Europe. The industries, the old heavy industries are going, so what do we have to do as an alternative? Well, I can tell you one thing. Having just had the wettest winter in Wales for 250 years on record, mass tourism is not the way forward for Wales. Instead, we want to look at culture and the creative industries. And we're encouraging our politicians to look at culture and the creative industries as a way of regenerating Wales, and specifically Cardiff. Just to give you an example of some of those deep-rooted economic problems we have in Wales, there's an area about 30 miles, 50 kilometres north of Cardiff, called the Valleys area, where all the mining towns, etc. were. They are some of the poorest parts of Europe. We receive the same EU economic funding support as some of the poorest areas of Romania and the poorest areas of Bulgaria. So I just want to give you the context. It's not London, sparkly, lovely, wealthy. It's Wales. Some real problems in the country. Okay. So just a little bit about me. I've worked in Wales for over 20 years, very much practical-based delivery of the arts. I've been head of marketing for a large 1,000-seat theatre. I've worked in local authority, the municipality side of things, looking at culture and policy for a region. Director of a small theatre in mid-Wales with a rural context. And now I've been working in Cardiff, the capital city of Wales, for the last three years or so. Cardiff is a city of about 350,000 people, okay? So what is Chapter? Well, Chapter is really quite an extraordinary organisation, I think. And I've been there a fairly short time, but it has an amazing history. It's an arts and community centre in Canton, Cardiff. Now, Canton is not a wealthy part of Cardiff. It's a very poor area of Cardiff. When this centre has gradually started to regenerate the area since it came into operation. It's housed in a big old Victorian school dating back to 1870. So we have an enormous old school, okay? Lots of space. And that's very important, that we have space to then practice the activities that we want to do. It was redeveloped back in 2009, so we had a big refurbishment, a big change in the way we interacted with our audiences and our customers at the centre. And so now we have 2 cinema spaces, 57 and 191, a gallery, a cafe, bar and social space, 7 meeting and rehearsal rooms, dance studios, a community garden. So down the front here, that's our community garden. We let people from the community who maybe don't ever come to an arts centre come, look after the gardens, plant vegetables, plant flowers, whatever they want. It's devolved to them to let them get on with it, and we have about 100 people who run the community garden. I don't get involved in it on a day-to-day basis in any way whatsoever. It just runs itself. But also importantly, and perhaps most importantly in relation to this conference, we're home to 32 creative industries companies, okay, that were based within the building at Chapter. And what are those companies? They are design companies. We've got an architecture company, design company. We've got dance company, children's theatre company, animation companies. We actually have a company called Beryl Productions, who were nominated for an Oscar about 10 years ago for animation. We've got music studios. We've got a guitar school. We've got something called BAFTA Cymru that looks after the Film Academy Awards for Wales. 32 creative industries companies based within the footprint of the organisation. So it's very much about the local community and the creative community meeting in one place. So we have all these creative people, 32 companies, plus the company that I run, plus the community coming in. It's a busy, busy place, okay? And our key role is to be an organisation that facilitates, supports, and most importantly, supports the new, okay? The new development of arts, culture, and the creative industries. So this is specifically what Chapter does, okay? We support, as I say, new emerging professional artists and companies, choreographers of dance, theatre companies, visual artists, and filmmakers. We present about 2,000 screenings a year. We're a member of the Europa Cinemas Network. We do various film festivals, again, Lesbian Film Festival, Green Film Festival, Wales One World Festival. We present and support about 100+ theatre presentations in our spaces. And what we do is we offer our spaces for the companies to rehearse for 3 or 4 weeks, and then we present them in our spaces, in our theatre spaces. We also run a very large extensive education and engagement program. So particularly in film, we take our film skills out into the wider community. And if you remember, I mentioned the Valleys area, about 50 kilometres north of Cardiff. We do a lot of workshops with schools and young people about them making films, talking about their lives, and then we come back and we screen them at Chapter. So we're very much about being, if you like, a hub organisation. I call it the mothership. So things come to us, and then we go out into the community and we support things in the wider community. So it's like a focus on us, and then we put that focus back out into the wider community and the wider cultural sector. Very, very importantly, and this is about the money side of things, we run a very successful cafe, bar, and restaurant. So when you go into Chapter, these are main doors at the front. You come in, first thing you have is a big social space, with a cafe bar in it and a restaurant. Now, why do we call it a social space? Well, we call it a social space because we think the strength of people is getting together physically in one place. So, lots of creative people meeting each other, having a coffee, recognizing the people over there in the corner and going, we've got a project in film. We know they're involved with a schools project. Shall we talk? It's very much about the dynamism of social interaction of people. And we do a lot of work online. We do a lot of work with Facebook and Twitter to encourage audiences. But I think what's essential about the creative industries and the creative opportunity is one-to-one people getting together. We are, at the end of the day, social beasts, in my opinion. Okay? And very importantly, that cafe bar, that generates a lot of the money that we then put back into the artistic activity and the support of the creative industries. Okay. Now, the creative industries, it's kind of like an amorphous statement in some ways. But what we've done in Wales, as I mentioned before, we have devolved government. We've managed to place arts and culture within the brief of creative industries in the economic section of the Welsh government. Okay? So arts, culture, creative industries, and economy all sit together in one department. So they're not one over here and one over there, they're all in the same loop. And I think that's a really important step as regards establishing the creative industries as almost a mainstream thinking behind economic planning going forward. Okay? So my argument is about the creative industries, it's jobs, it's an industry, it needs to be recognized as one and supported as one. And for example, if a company, a large telephone company or insurance company was going to relocate to Cardiff and build its new shiny offices, the Welsh government would give it public money to encourage it to come and set up. My argument is, give money, small amounts of money, into arts, into creative industries, and you will have a return through that investment. There is no difference between giving a large amount of money to an insurance company or a telephone company or the creative industries. It's about public-private partnership. Okay? And that's really, really important. Because creative industries, the arts, is at the end of the day, jobs and economy. Okay? So the history of Chapter. It was established in 1971. And this, again, is really important about the history of the organisation. It was established from the bottom up through the demands of artists in the city who wished to basically have a home and a space in the city to develop their work. And the City Council, I have issues with our City Council in Cardiff, believe me, but they gave this old Victorian school to a bunch of artists and said, get on with it, don't come and bother us again. So that was back in 1971. And it's really key that the City Council, the municipality, the local government, whatever we want to call it, gave artists and creative people the opportunity for space, and space free at the time. And that was the start, if you like, of the investment of public-private partnership. Give artists, give creative people space, and things will happen. And there's lots of old industrial buildings still in Cardiff. I'm sure there's lots of old industrial buildings throughout the Balkans. So there is an opportunity for local authorities, cities, to provide space for artists and see where it goes. Okay, so support for artists and creating the new has always been at the heart of the organization, part of the DNA of the organization, okay? And that's very much what we do. We support theatre companies, dance makers, filmmakers, everything. We've been a charity since 1982, and a charity with a trading arm since 1997. So basically what happens, the cafe bar and some of our trading activities generates the money that we then put into the wider arts company, okay? As a trading arm of a charity, we don't pay tax on that profit. That gets put back into the company as long as we spend it on the art and I don't buy a Mercedes. So it's recognised as home for the artists in Cardiff and Wales, okay? And as an arts organisation, it's always been a little bit, you know, flaky with the money sometimes and perhaps not as on the ball with the budgets. So it's had a history of art coming before the budget. And reality is it's been bankrupt nearly on several occasions. But the new reality is in Wales, the new reality in the UK, and the new reality across Europe is that there are ongoing economic difficulties and public funding is going to be reducing yet further. Okay? So as an organisation, we need to be responsible, accountable, but also sustainable. Okay? And that's very important going forward. We need to be artistic, but also business-like. So whereas before the arts led and the business followed, the two need to run in tandem. So coming back to Wales, I think we have an assembly in Wales of elected politicians who actually get art and culture. Okay? And that's, I think, really important. They might not understand the nuances of it, the details, but they understand that it is economic activity, it's social activity, it's quality of life, and it's something that defines the culture of a company, of a country, not a company, a country, which in our case is Wales, a new devolved nation. Okay? But as I say, we have to adapt to the new reality, and as an organisation, over the last few years, we've had to do some big changes. We've had to review our mission and aims. What is it that was important about Chapter? What is the core of our business? Well, it's about creating art, it's about creating artistic opportunity, and it's about creating artistic programs that we can then sell on to other organisations, etc. So we've had to review our business model, create a sustainable business model that will work for the future, but also the future ahead, because public funding will certainly go down. We've had to review our costs, review our income, review what we do, how we do it, diversify as an organisation the income streams we're doing. And I have to say I've been really impressed with some of the things that Mixer do, and I'm going to steal some of the ideas of Mixer and replicate them back at Chapter. Diversify, what sort of things have we been doing? We've been looking at contracts, delivery of contracts, setting up a microbrewery, so we create our own beer, that sort of thing. Look for partnerships. Partnerships to deliver programs. And one of the things we've been doing is talking with our city council about care for the elderly people in our community. Okay, now, I'll give you an example. The elderly community are looked after by the city council, picked up in a bus, taken off for the day, given a cup of tea and a piece of cake, bit of chitter-chatter, taken back to the old people's home at the end of the day. We've said, pay us the money, bring them to Chapter, we'll run them an education workshop, show them an education film, engage in them, put them back in the same bus and back to the same, old people's home. And the city council are going, okay, that makes sense, because in the wider economy, older people who are more engaged, more active in their brains, more agile, more engaged athletically, actually require less medication. So you invest in the arts, you have a return in the wider economy, okay, in some form. That may not be obvious, but it does happen. Okay, so we focus on what is unique about Chapter and our business, the arts, so we produce more, we present more, we support more, and that in itself creates income opportunity and profile. We've just recently taken on a 4-year contract with the film agency for the UK, the British Film Institute. So we are effectively the British Film Institute now in Wales. We're running a 3-year European dance project. We've also accessed European funding for from the EU, from the culture programme, which is just finishing. We've set up an associate company scheme. We've increased our education activities because that actually opens up doors for finance and support from the education authorities, who, believe me, do have money. They have money in this country. They certainly have money in the UK. We've done more events and activities. For example, something called Art Car Boutique, which is a 2-day art fair we do within the backs of cars, which we bring into our car park. We've also just done a 2-day music festival, and we're actually part of a festival called Soon, a music festival that's just been voted at the NME Awards as Best Small Festival in the UK, so we're a part of that. We've also sought out contracts, as I said, with that City Council. If you ever fly to Cardiff Airport and you come through the Arrivals Lounge is now curated by Chapter. So there was a contract for redesigning, redeveloping the Arrivals Lounge with a uniquely Welsh twist. We pitched for it, got the contract, and say, if you ever fly to Cardiff, part of the problem is nobody flies to Cardiff, but anyway, if you ever do, you'll come through a Chapter Arrivals Lounge. We've also looked to gain money from trusts, foundations, commercial sponsorship. We've introduced philanthropy. As I mentioned, Gareth Bale, we're chasing him hard because he actually went to school half a mile around the corner from Chapter. Give us some cash, Gareth. We've professionalised and maximised our catering opportunities. As I said, we turn over £1.5 million in the catering section of Chapter, which creates a profit of about £400,000 a year, which we then put into the charitable activities, the artistic activities of the company. And we're also looking for external contracts for catering. So in other words, we will run the catering arms of museums, perhaps leisure centres, anywhere that's interested. So we've improved our marketing, I think. We have a new website, www.chapter.org, which I think is very good, very easy to get around and gives an idea of all the things we do. We've presented a lot of things away from Chapter, things like pop-up cinema. We recently did a collaboration with CADU, which is the organisation that looks after historic castles in Wales. So we did film in castles, which is great fun, even in the rain. We've looked to expand our brand across the city. We've got long-term plans for a Chapter 2. And we talk, importantly, the language of the politicians and those who decide on funding. We play the game. So we talk to politicians in a way that they understand. So we talk about economy, social, jobs, people having jobs, not being reliant on the state. Okay? We shout about our success and our importance within the organisation. Okay, so just a few of the numbers. 800,000 visitors a year. We sell about 150,000 tickets a year. So out of those visitors, a lot are just coming for a coffee, a beer, and a bite to eat. That's fine. Let's say our cafe bar has a turnover of about 1.5 million. The charity turns over 4 million, nearly. So if you think back in 1971, we've grown into a big company. We directly employ 120 people. If you take in all the creative industries companies that are based within Chapter, the 32 I mentioned earlier, there's nearly 300 people who are working out of Chapter on a daily basis. And that is a big employer in the city. Okay? 300 people working in the creative industries, working in the arts. That is a big company by any measure, by any city. And so we demand, we expect a voice in the political and the economic spheres of decision-making in government. Okay? I think it's a great example of the arts as a business where a small state investment, okay, has a huge return on the wider economy, the wider social benefits of that area and the city. Okay? Only 18% of the money we have as a company comes from the state. Okay? The other 82% we generate ourselves. And that is the new reality for the UK. We have to be creative, entrepreneurial, creative in the arts, but creative with the business. And it's about jobs, it's about engaged, happy people, but it's also about culture. So my message to you to finish is, if a city like Cardiff, to be honest, a pretty shitty city, can do it, pretty much anywhere can, actually. And from what I've seen in Serbia, you've got amazing talent here, amazing opportunities in respect of buildings and energy. What you need is the will of the politicians to support the creative industries. And money would be lovely, but will and support, I think, is a big step in the right direction. So if British Council can assist in any way in encouraging creative industries to be a mainstream consideration of economic activity as opposed to fringe, then we are more than happy to help support those discussions within a city, within a municipality, within other conferences like this across the country.